guys, welcome to my channel. It's Valrine here. Thank you so much for being here. In this video, we're taking a break from the slipcover because we're doing a budget makeover for the slipcover, right? And I'm in the process of trying to get the zippers out of the existing cushions so I can use them in the new cushions, right? Because budget, we're saving money here. So what we're going to do in today's video is look at the tools that you need to have in your sewing kit, right? And so the first thing we're going to do, the big ticket item, a sewing machine, yeah. And so I am just going to get this out of the way. Now I have this sewing machine now for about at least 23 years. Right, and it is still going strong. It's a Janome, and it has multiple different stitches here. Now I know you have lots of more updated sewing machines because, as I said, this is 23 years old. But the point is to say, if you are a beginner sewer, you don't have to go out and buy a very fancy sewing machine, right? And so, of course, if you have the budget, that's fine, and if you want to buy it. But what I'm saying, don't let that deter you from just getting yourself a simple sewing machine that you can use to do stitches, to do your home DIY sewing projects, right? And so now this big ticket item is out of the way. I'm going to take this over because this is not the tools that you need. You don't need this, but it is something that is good to have because I house all my scissors and all of that good stuff in this kit here. So this is what it is, and then I have the inside that goes just like so, and then this goes on top. One of these little caddies is very, very handy to have, right? So now let's go on and talk about the tools that we should have in our sewing kit. Now these two here, this is a big triangle, and this is a square. Now you use a triangle or a square to, as the name suggests, the square, to square up your fabric, right? So this straight edge, for example, would go against the self edge of your fabric, and then you could draw your line. And then another thing that's handy is your yardstick, because your square won't allow you to draw a line across the fabric, but then you could pick that line up with your yardstick and you could continue your line right across the fabric. My triangle here doesn't fit in my thing here. It would fit, but I have so much in there, I don't want to stuff it in, so I don't keep it in there. But the square, however, does fit. Now we will go on to our measuring tape. Now there are fabric tapes. I don't have fabric tape. I have vinyl plastic tapes. And so yeah, your measuring tape is important to have, and you don't want to use a rigid tape. You want to get a flexible tape. Now this one measuring tape goes up to 120, I think. Yeah, 120 inches. But this one goes up to 60 inches, right? And so I would suggest that if you're gonna buy one that goes up to 120 inches, so that it's long enough to measure longer lengths, right? If you're doing, like, for example, window treatment, you don't have to stop and start. You can just go ahead and measure straight out. Now that's our measuring tape. Now let's move on to our pencil. A simple old Staedtler HB2 pencil. We need one in our sewing kit, and I'm just putting them away as I go through them. Now this little thing here is filled with tailor's chalk. Tailor's chalk is what you use to draw your line. When you put your triangle on your fabric, you draw your line with your tailor's chalk. your tailor's chalk will disappear after a while. And it's good to have different colors, because different fabrics you may need something different so that you can see it on a piece of fabric. Also, I have this little thing here. It comes with the tailor's chalk, so I can put my tailor's chalk in here. I can draw my line, and if I need to get the line out quickly, I can just use this and basically erase the line. You want to be careful though, the type of your material you're using this on, because you don't want to snag your fabric. So yeah, we need tailor's chalk. Now if you want to, you could get a marker with disappearing ink, but I don't see completely necessary, so I don't have one. I use my pencil and I use my tailor's chalk. Yeah, let's move on. We've already looked at our yardstick. Now this is an embroidery scissors, and embroidery scissors you use to do finer details, right? Like for example, if you're cutting around an area where there's a stitch and you don't want to use your bigger cutting scissors, which is the other thing that you need to have, you use your embroidery scissors. Now I keep most of my scissors in this compartment here. Now these are your cutting scissors. Now there are different cutting scissors that you can buy. You can see this one is straight up, just the cutting scissors. This one is more ergonomic. So when you go to buy your cutting scissors, you may want to try it out. Just get your hand in it and try it out to see how it feels. Now another type of scissors that I started with in my sewing kit is a pinking shear. Now you may ask, what's a pinking shear? Well, a pinking shear looks like this, right? And what you usually use it to do is cut the edge of the fabric, because what it does is stop the fabric from fraying, right? And so if you don't have a zigzag stitch or a serger or an overedge stitch, a pinking shear will cut your fabric looking just like so, and that is supposed to prevent fraying on your fabric. You don't need it, because especially if you have one of those updated sewing machine. My sewing machine has an overhead stitch and it also has the zigzag stitch. So those are the two functions that I use when I need to stop fraying, right? Yeah, your pinking shears. Drop it in the comments below if you have a sewing kit that has a pinking shear in there, and let me know how old your pinking shear is. I think this pinking shear is about 20 years old. Yeah, been around for a while. Now another thing I find very useful in my sewing kit is a measuring gauge. Now this measuring gauge you would use if you're doing, for example, a hem and you want to measure off, like say you want to measure 4 inches. You will put your measuring gauge little stoppy thing right here at 4 inches, and then you basically put it on the fabric like so, and you mark your 4 inches off. It's a useful little tool. Another thing you need to have is a seam ripper. Now, as the name suggests, we use a seam ripper to rip seams. For example, if you sew something and oh, I made a little boo-boo and you wanna undo it, you can use your seam ripper to go ahead and remove the thread in order to be able to correct your boo-boo. So yeah, a seam ripper is a very important tool to have to help to correct those boo-boos can be used for other things too. We need to have pins, and we need to have a pin cushion. Now I have different types of pin in here now. My mom called them when we were growing up common pins. And this is what common pins looked like when I was growing up 50 plus, almost 60 years ago. Now, this is what they look like. Now, I don't mind this because it's a bigger head, and so it's easier to use. However, when you're talking about stitching, sometimes the head here can get in the way. So if you can get common pins like these with smaller heads, then it's a good thing to have some of these and some of these, right? So yeah, that's your pins and your pin cushion. Now, needles. We need to have some needles. Needles is like for hand stitching. If you want to baste something before you stitch it, needles, and you can get different size needles and needles for different functions. Like these are plastic canvas needles. These are tapestry needles. So when you go to buy your sewing needles, look at the type to make sure you're getting something appropriate for what you want to do. Okay, so other needles that we need are our machine needles. These two come in different sizes for different functions. So you want to buy your sewing needles based on what you want to do, and by the size based on the type of material that you will be stitching. Then we have our needle threader. This we can use to thread both a sewing needle and a machine needle. Well, I have a machine needle here, so let's just check it out how it's done. It has this little slot right here, and my sewing machine, I have to thread from the front to the back. So I would have to use this threader and push it through the hole. And then I'll put my thread in this little area here and pull this through in order to pull the thread through. The truth is, I don't use it. I don't even see the needle eye most of the time, but I thread the needle because I'm so used to threading the needle now, right? But you decide if you need it. If you need it, then you make sure you include it in your sewing kit. Most times when you buy your sewing machine, you will get feet with your sewing machine. Two important feet to have in your kit are a regular straight stitch foot and a zipper foot. Now this zipper foot can also be used to apply trims like cording or piping on your projects when you're doing them. So a straight foot and a zipper foot are two important feet to have for your sewing machine. Now I have this little thing here. You want to guess what it is? It's actually a magnet. So if you have like something that has a bunch of pins or even needles, anything that's metal, and it spills, all you have to do is use this little magnetic gadget here, and then you just pick them all up at once. So this is a very cool one to have. Check this out. Oh, that's it. And you don't have to spend all your time picking them up one by one. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. It's a given. We need bobbins, right? Because if we're going to use our sewing machine, all sewing machines use bobbins. We also need our sewing thread. And sometimes before you actually stitch your project on your sewing machine, you may need to do what we call basting. So you can, I don't have any basting thread over here, I have it in the studio, but you may want to have some basting thread in your sewing kit, so you can use your basting thread to baste before you stitch. That way you ensure that you're not making any mistakes, right? Because it's easier to take out the basting thread than to take out the thread after you have sewn. If you want to take it out, then you go for your seam ripper. Yeah, but yeah, guys, that's all the tools that we need in our sewing kit. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I hope this was helpful to you. Please drop it in the comments and let me know if you have any questions. Like, share, and watch these videos. They may be helpful to you. I will see you again soon.